Hello there. In today's video, I am going to help you find how to find your niche. So, how do I find my niche? And I get this question asked a lot, and we're going to dive all into it. So, get ready, buckle up, class is in session. So, first, I want to tell you what is a niche. So, a lot of people think a niche market is the same thing as a target market. And while a target market is a niche market is not a target market. So, a target market is a group of prospects or clients that are grouped together by similar demographics. It could be life stages, it could be income, it could be demographics, psychographics, etc. And while all of those things also apply to a niche audience, what makes a niche audience different than a target market or audience is that a niche market is all bound together by a similar problem. And so everything, it's just like a layer deeper than a target market. So we're going to explore that a bit in the framework. And I think that choosing and defining your niche is probably the most important part of the brand framework, because everything else really comes out of that exact concept, right? So, who you're well positioned to serve, how you serve them, why they need you, what's at stake if they don't work with you, etc. So that's just a little bit of a difference between a target market and a niche. Think one layer deeper, problem bound, and solution focused to that specific niche. Now, I also want to address some misconceptions about niche marketing and choosing and defining and pursuing a niche. So, the most common thing that I hear, hands down, when I'm talking on this subject is, well, if I choose a niche, aren't I limiting my potential opportunities? So, biggest misconception, and the answer is no. And I want to explain why. So, you're always going to be more successful if you go deeper with a narrower audience versus going broader and shallower. And there's a few reasons for that. Number one is because that's just the world that we live in right now. And general services, general brands, general products are just not what people are looking for these days. So you may think that by niching, because niching is committing to serving a certain type of audience with their certain problems. So by niching, yes, you will end up eventually saying no to other things, but that's actually so much better, right? Like, niching allows you to focus your time, energy, effort, resources in an aligned way. So you're not limiting your opportunities. You are just focusing your opportunities. So I want to address that. And I completely get that feeling, because in a way you're like, oh my gosh, if I commit to this, then I'm saying no to other things. Yeah, exactly. And that choice will help so many areas of your business. So I'll get into that a bit, but that's the most common misconception is, will this hurt my opportunities if I commit and choose to serving a certain niche? The answer is no, it will only enhance your opportunities and sharpen the ones that you get in front of. The second misconception is, by choosing a niche, will I hurt or damage the relationship with my existing clients who don't serve that niche? And I think the answer to that is a bit nuanced. Sorry, I just got a little recording on my Google notification. The answer to that one is a bit more nuanced. So when you choose a niche, what's really cool is you put yourself in the driver's seat of where you want your practice or your firm to go. So there's no wrong answer to your niche, but you do commit and you do pick a direction. And while you pursue that, you don't have to stop serving your existing clients, and you don't have to say no to referrals that come to you that are not in your niche. It just means that your focus, marketing, and prospecting opportunities will be targeted and focused towards a certain niche, the other ones, you're still going to get them, especially, when you first start doing this work, you're not just going to stop getting referrals, and you're not going to cut all your clients out of your book that don't fit exactly in your niche. But what happens is over time, you just get closer to who and where you want to be. So that's how I like to answer that question. Again, it's a bit more nuanced. So my biggest reasons for niching is, one, you create marketing opportunities. Without choosing a niche, you actually can't do any content marketing. You can't really provide any education that's valuable. And you can't really choose a direction to grow. You're always going to be stuck in the referral from clients model if you don't niche. And so that's honestly the biggest reason why you should do it. It creates differentiation. It makes your service model easier down the road, because if you have a niche, then you can actually build your practice and scale around services for the niche. If you don't, you have a general practice, it just affects everything, right? So kind of bottom line is, you niche, you choose direction, everything in your business will benefit from that. Your marketing actually becomes a business development arm versus an expense. If you stick with referrals only, you're stuck with that general, and that just honestly causes so many scaling headaches down the road. So big fan of niching. Really quick, funny side note before we get into the framework and how to find your niche. I have a word that I've made up called a niche. And so it's any issue in business that really comes back to not having a niche. That's called a niche. So you might hear me say that in some of these other courses. I'm a big fan of puns. All right. So that's kind of the framework here. So I just went over, what is a niche? What are the misconceptions about choosing and pursuing a niche? And now we're going to get into the niche framework. A lot of people ask me, okay, like I'm on board with this niche thing, but how do I find a niche? I was working with a client the other day, and he said, it's just like who you like working with. And I said, well, that's part of it. So now we're going to get into the niche framework and how I help advisors and firms find the niche that they are perfectly positioned to serve. This framework comes from a bunch of different frameworks that I have researched and tested over the years, both in this industry and outside of this industry. And I've created my own framework that I believe is the best for advisors and firms. So the 3-part niche framework is a way that you can find your magnetic zone of attraction, which is in the middle of these 3 beautiful little Venn diagrams. So it's the intersection. Your strongest niche exists at the intersection of these circles: passion and expertise, relational connections, and market need. So let's walk through this a little bit. Your passion and expertise come from past experience. It comes from those problems that keep you up at night, where you really get in your flow state of work, where you just know that you want to solve the problem. You get excited about this problem. I'll just use myself as an example, because this is actually the exact framework that I use to find and refine and really hone in what it is that Wonder Lab does. So I noticed that I was just obsessed with the problem of marketing in financial services and why it's so hard, how to help brands and businesses market in 2025 in the 21st century, and just like why the gap was so big. I noticed that I started becoming obsessed with the problem. I was listening to all these podcasts, consuming all this content, thinking about it, reading books. So pay attention to those things that you just geek out about. What's your geek out zone? That's the passion expertise. And it's likely that those two intersect and exist with each other, or hopefully they do, because that means that you're in your zone of genius with your work. And then my expertise, again, using myself as an example, I'm a marketer. I've come from marketing backgrounds. I've come from advisor backgrounds. So I had the expertise and the passion for this problem. So think about that for you. Where do you have expertise? Where do you feel like you could get invited to speak on a topic to speak about what audience. That's all the passion and expertise circle right there. The next circle is your relational connections. So this is really critical, and a really critical part for financial advisors is our business really is relationships and who you're connected to. So think about those circles of trust that you have established yourself in. And those are the people that you could text or call or shoot an email and be like, hey, we need to jump on the phone, got this thing. Just the people that you're connected to and that you have relational capital with. So there's circles here that really matter. And this is important because yes, you can break into brand new niches. This framework also works for a brand new person just starting their business or completely reinventing themselves, reinventing industry, but it's still always going to come back to those relational connections and who you know. So think about those circles of trust that you've established yourself in and where you have a good reputation in. That's an important part to break into your niche. And then last but not least is market need. So this is a really important one to add into the framework and the element of a niche, because I find that advisors who aren't confident, who don't know their niche, they often will go to market kind of just unsure of themselves. They go to market with, oh, I got a referral to you from this person. I do financial planning. And then this person might be like, well, what is that? Well, it's investments, insurance, planning, comprehensive financial solutions. And that is what you do, but it doesn't really resonate with that pain point of the person you're in front of. So the most effective marketing and storytelling that you're ever going to do is when you're talking about someone's pain and troubles and frustration, because that's what actually gets people curious. That's what gets people interested. And that's what gets people referring to you. The market need is how you speak about your services in context to their pain point. So let's go back to me and WonderLab as an example. I noticed I had the passion and expertise. I had relational connections. I had been in this industry for over 6 years. I knew a lot of people that I could just hit up and they would meet with me. The market need is I noticed that what I had passion and expertise for, there's an absolute need for that. The market need for specifically WonderLab is understanding marketing and ROI as a financial firm or an industry or as an advisor. And it's like the how do I create a marketing plan? How do I do compliant marketing? How do I position myself when everyone says they say and do the same thing that I do? I don't know what makes me different. So when those three things come together, and I think you're starting to understand why these three things all together just create that absolute zone of magnets, you really can grow your business right here. And what gets so fun and exciting about niching that you don't get without it is you don't really have to sell. All you have to do is teach and connect. And that's way more fun than selling, right? So when you have that right here, everything changes because you can start to teach, sell, educate, and attract. And your time that you're doing all those things actually becomes business development. So we're going to unlock, we can go through that a bit later. I have some resources around content marketing, prospecting in the digital age. So once you have your niche, then what do you do with that? How do you go to market with that? Well, the short answer is you can use, once you know where you exist, you can have that confidence and use that language in your meetings, but also create this whole world that you may not have access to today, which is creating education, resources, and becoming super valuable and attractive for that niche. And you can go deeper and deeper and deeper and become the referred go-to expert for that problem with that group. And there's no shortage of prospects in the niche that you choose. So to recap all of this, how do I find my niche? Well, you need to find this zone of genius. And I'm going to be hosting a brand accelerator group in December. I do these every month, and I walk advisors through this framework and help them clarify this with unequivocal clarity, and then actually go to market really confidently and strongly. So if you liked this content, there's way more that you can follow and learn from. Follow or subscribe to our email list, which is on our website. We send out weekly brand building tips. And then also make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, because I'll be creating a lot more educational videos, and follow along and keep eyes open for the next brand accelerator cohorts if you're an advisor and you want more help with this. So that's it for today. And thanks for tuning in.